You guys are actually insane. Every time I do a Q&A, you guys look at the milestone that I set and then you just decide to blow it out of the water. I said like 200 or something likes in the last video and we got 300 with only 3,000 views. So let's go for 300 again, because apparently that's just something we can do. But with that aside, let's get into the questions. Which character do you think won't return in Injustice 3 and which will return from Injustice Gods Among Us? This question would be like a really long-winded answer if I answered everything in here, because I would have to like pull up a spreadsheet of Injustice 2 characters and go, these are the ones that will return and these are the ones that won't. And that's a question I'd be willing to put the time into answering, but we only have so much time that we can be used on each video. So hopefully I'll answer that in a future video when I get the time. But if you don't mind, I'm just going to answer the second part of this question, which is which character will return from Injustice 1? I think a character we're likely to see in Injustice 3 is Batgirl. There is some weird story stuff surrounding the Batgirl character, but NetherRealm has shown that they're willing to quote-unquote ignore whatever's happening in the comic books. For example, they had Victor Zsasz show up in the beginning of Injustice 2, and by all accounts of the comic books, he should be dead, unless they've explained that in Injustice 2's comics. I haven't read all of them yet. I think Batgirl is likely to show up, mainly because it's a Bat family member that we haven't seen in a long time. It's a character they haven't used the gear system for yet, and I'd be very interested to see how they could do that, or what they would do with that, I should say. And she should rise in popularity quite a lot by then, because we're getting a Batgirl movie sometime in the future, so she's going to spike in popularity quite a bit. I wouldn't even be surprised if she was considered like one of the main characters in the story in Injustice 3. Do you think Captain Cold has a chance being in Injustice 3? This is actually a character I think will return in Injustice 3. Injustice 2's version of Captain Cold feels almost complete, and I really do mean that literally. I mean almost complete. The character has all the right ideas there. It's a setup character with all kinds of different options for, again, setups and zoning, and it's a very interesting gameplay style. You're going to need a Flash villain at some point, because Flash is going to need to fight people in the story. Captain Cold is a very popular Flash villain. He's a very, very popular character on the TV show. All the pieces seem to align perfectly for Captain Cold to return in Injustice 3, with some slight gameplay tweaks that make him feel a lot better. And I can't wait for that, because Captain Cold is a ton of fun to play, and I'm sure with some adjustment moving into Injustice 3, he could feel like one of the better characters on the roster. What was your dream DLC character for Injustice 2? By dream, I mean like completely insane. So I guess what he's asking me here is if there were no rules, if I could just pick a character, meaning I'm allowed to pick like a Marvel character if I want to. In all honesty, the answer is still probably Vibe. I know some of you really don't like how much I like Vibe. I see it a lot in my comment section. There's some Vibe haters out there. Even with like no rules, if I could pick any character, I still might pick Vibe. It's something I would have to think about a lot more, but if I wasn't allowed to pick Vibe for whatever reason, and I had to pick somebody using some like crazy rules where we had access to all the characters in the world, maybe I would go with somebody like Venom. I'd be kind of interested to see what they could do with him in an Injustice game, because he could have some really interesting moves that he can't have in a game, say like Marvel vs. Capcom. I think he'd be a very fun, aggressive character to play. If there is a PlayStation All-Stars 2, will you play it? I have heard that there's some news going on with PlayStation All-Stars. I haven't been keeping up with it because in all honesty, I'm not really that interested. If it does end up happening, it just depends on what my community wants. Whatever game my community wants to see is the game that will always be on this channel, as long as I can also enjoy the game. Obviously, I'm not going to go play something that I hate, but as far as actually playing the game for myself, like outside of my YouTube channel, yeah, I might play it one day. I don't know, it just depends. Generally, I don't play a lot of console games. Literally, the only reason I own an Xbox or PlayStation 4 is for Injustice 2. But yeah, it would just depend what the game ends up looking like through trailers and things like that. Do you think we'll get an Owlman Premier skin for Batman? At this point, I'm going to go ahead and say no. I can't imagine there's too many Premier skins left to go. Just at the rate that we get Premier skins, we get them pretty slowly. I think they said there's going to be like 15 or something of them when they're all said and done, and I'm not quite sure how many we have. If I had to guess, we'd probably have around 10. So there's not very many more Premier skins left. I don't think Owlman is going to be one of them. I could be totally wrong. It's just my rough guess. And in all honesty, I haven't put a lot of thought into it, and I'm not super familiar with the Owlman character. Don't take my word as gospel, but I'm going to go ahead and predict no. If you could buff one character, who would you pick? I've been asked questions like this before, but it's usually more about nerfing characters, and I don't like talking about balance in Injustice because, first of all, Injustice is a pretty different fighting game to most on the market. Second of all, my experience in the fighting game genre is pretty limited, so I don't like making strong statements about balance, but I do think a character like Swamp Thing probably deserves a little bit more than he currently has. He's seen a little bit of play in competitive, believe it or not, but even still, I think his kit is very interesting, and I'd like to see him pushed a little more. more. Do you think Samuroid from season 4 of The Flash would be a good pick if they were to add another fighter pack or just a premiere skin for Robin? PS, I love the videos. Well, thank you very much, but I don't think he'd actually be a good pick for Injustice 2. For people unfamiliar with the character, at least in the format of The Flash, he was used as just kind of a B-list villain to show up for one episode, and he's actually being controlled by the Thinker in the context of the show. So with that context, I would say that just because of the lack of popularity for the character, he shouldn't be anywhere near Injustice 2. Do you think that Solomon Grundy could be a premiere skin for Swamp Thing? This is actually something I put a little bit of thought into. When I read this comment, I originally kind of immediately disregarded it, but I started thinking about it as I was looking for more questions for the Q&A, and I thought, you know what? If they replaced his vines with chains, it could work. You replaced the log that he shoots out with a gravestone or something. I think it's totally plausible. That being said, I don't think it will happen because Solomon Grundy already has a predetermined kit in Injustice's world. We already had Solomon Grundy in Injustice 1, and it would be weird to see him with a completely different moveset in Injustice 2. At least so far with the rules that we have set up for Injustice so far, everybody in Injustice 1 has the same moveset in Injustice 2, but slightly tweaked, and this would be a massive difference between his Injustice 1 kit and Swamp Thing's kit in Injustice 2. I know I've asked this question 5 times, but I really want to know your answer. Do you think Black Canary's son, Connor, could be a character in Injustice 3? First of all, I do want to go ahead and apologize for not answering your question. I understand it can be kind of frustrating for you guys if you leave a question and I don't answer it immediately. Just keep in mind that I do save all of my questions, even ones that I don't answer in my videos, because sometimes I'll use them for individual video topics. Sometimes I'll use them if it's a question specifically about Mortal Kombat. I might throw it into a Mortal Kombat specific Q&A. I just want to go ahead and apologize for, because I understand it can be quite difficult just kind of throwing these questions out into the comment section and wondering if I ever see them. I promise you I see your questions as long as you have the hashtag Q&A there. I read all of my comments like that. It doesn't even matter if you leave them on a Q&A. You can leave them on any video and I'll see the hashtag Q&A. Now, back to your question. The Connor Hawke character has always been pretty interesting to me. I haven't read a lot of the character as far as comic books are concerned. I've obviously seen him in DC Legends of Tomorrow, and he was pretty cool in that, but I don't see them doing 2 Archer characters in the same game, and I don't believe they'll stop using the Oliver Queen character. So unless he's a premiere skin in Injustice 3, I don't think he'll end up being in Injustice 3 at all. That being said, I do see a path forward where he could end up being a premiere skin. He could be in the background of the story. For example, the premiere skins we got in Injustice 2, or at least one of them, the Reverse Flash, he was in the story, but he was just a premiere skin. They could do the same thing with Connor Hawke. He could be involved in the story. Maybe Oliver's getting a little bit old and he can't participate as much. Or maybe Connor's just got to the age where Oliver brings him along whenever he's doing vigilante work, and we see Connor Hawke in the background of the story, and then he ends up being a premiere skin for Green Arrow. But I don't think he'll ever be his own character. I really want Wild Dog as a premiere skin for Red Hood. What do you think? I think it's a fantastic idea. I think I've actually answered this exact question before. Wild Dog is a perfect pick for Red Hood. I love the Wild Dog character in this most recent season of Arrow. I think he's been really impressive. He's a very comedic character, but yet you still care about him because of everything that's going on with his daughter. Honestly, I hope that Wild Dog shows up in Injustice 3 as his own character and maybe gets a Red Hood premiere skin or something like that. Or maybe Red Hood will be in the story of Injustice 3. I mean, it's too far out to say anything like that. Here's hoping we do end up getting Wild Dog in some context because the character is really cool. At this point, though, I would say his chances of being a premiere skin are pretty low. How do you think they're going to do Justice League gear for Aquaman come November? Well, they haven't confirmed anything yet, but I would imagine they're going to have separate multiverse events, maybe for the DC characters that are going to be involved with the upcoming Justice League movie. And spoiler alert, by the way, if anyone's going to go see Justice League and they don't want any spoilers, mute the video for the next 5 seconds. Maybe even the next 10 seconds. They started releasing action figures or something for the movie, and one of the action figures is Green Lantern. So even Green Lantern might get some Justice League gear. But as far as the rest of the characters are concerned, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get Justice League gear. Batman's Justice League gear would look pretty awesome, and obviously all the other characters as well. Do you think Brainiac could return as a DLC character in Injustice 3? Possibly. That's probably his best bet. I don't think he's gonna show up as a character in the game on the main roster because he's too big of a character to not be the main villain, and he was already the main villain in Injustice 2. So it's possible he could maybe be a pre-order bonus, but I don't think he'll make it as main DLC or even a main character on the roster. Do you think Red Tornado has a chance of being in Injustice 3? I mean, everybody's got a chance of being in Injustice 3, but Red Tornado is not even a character that's kind of relevant right now. He might be doing something in the comic books, I have no idea, but he's definitely not scheduled for anything on TV. He's not scheduled for anything in the movies. He had one episode in Supergirl, if I remember correctly, but other than that, I don't think the character's going anywhere as far as popular media is concerned, and it's really really important for them to incorporate as many as characters from popular media in order for that like cross-promotion thing to always be happening. It's just so good for them to be able to advertise for the movies and for the movies and TV shows to be able to advertise for them at the exact same time. Because, you know, you might see somebody on your favorite TV show and then go, hey, I want to play the game with them in it, or you might play the game and then be like, huh, I wonder if they're on the TV or movies, and then you might go watch them or buy them or whatever. So the fact that it's doing two types of promotion at once is just super valuable for Warner Brothers. And there's so many characters that are about to be used in the film. So I would imagine even if Red Tornado's name is on a list somewhere for options for Injustice 3, I would imagine he's pretty low on that list. Well, that's it for the questions. Thank you guys so much again for such awesome questions. You guys have been incredibly supportive with the Q&As. I intend to keep them up. You guys always come out and show some love. My name has been BILBZY. Make sure you subscribe for tomorrow's video, and I'll see you then.
Holy mackerel.